Hi, welcome to Android Dev Summit. I'm Fung Lam, Developer Relations Engineer from Android, and today I'm going to tell you how to keep your app from failing in a 64-bit only world. Android hardware is always changing. Sometimes the hardware change is highly visible, like from a regular screen to widescreen to ultra-wide screen, and sometimes it is not. If you are building apps for Android, I think you must be familiar with the device available in the market. Generally, there are two types. Some Android devices are 32-bit only. They are usually mobile devices for the low-end market, or TV and wearable devices. And the majority of mobile devices are 32-bit plus 64-bit mixed mode devices. Now, it is a bit different after the Pixel 7 is launched. Pixel 7 is the first Android phone configured as 64-bit only. And as forthcoming high-end SoC cannot run 32-bit code, this will be a big thing next year. Every developer should get ready for this. We expect 64-bit only to be the default options in the future. You may ask, why drop support for 32-bit code? Well, of course, there are a few advantages for doing this. First, it is faster. 64-bit applications run faster because they have access to extra registers and instructions that are not available to 32-bit apps. Secondly, it is safer. The bigger address space makes defense like ASLR more effective, and the spare bits can be used to protect control flow integrity. And the new hardware instructions get added to 64-bit, but not 32-bit instruction sets. Thirdly, it improves system health. Removing support for 32-bit code saves up to 150 megabytes of RAM, which has been used by the OS even when it is not running 32-bit applications. And finally, starting in 2023, next year, high-end SoCs will no longer be able to run 32-bit code. I think you also remember that from August 1st, 2019, app published on Google Play will need to support 64-bit architecture, right? So does it mean that you do not have to do anything and your app will be running without issue on these 64-bit only devices? Maybe. Have you ever tested your app on a 64-bit only environment? No, right? Because 64-bit only devices were not in the market before. Different Android devices use different CPUs, which in turn support different instruction sets. Each combination of CPU and instruction sets has its own application binary interface, ABI. How do I know if the device is a 64-bit only device or not? You may check the value of build.support ABIs. It will tell you the supported ABIs of the device, and supported 32-bit ABIs will be an empty list on 64-bit only devices. Okay, my phone is not a 64-bit only device. What should I do? You can use the emulator. Starting from Android 12, the emulator is 64-bit only. And of course, we know. Sometimes it's just too difficult to test your app on an emulator. So very soon, you'll be able to download a 64-bit only image for some older Pixel devices. Fetching it will make your Pixel a 64-bit only device so you could do the testing. If you install your app with ADB, you could supply --ABI as a parameter to indicate which libraries to install to the device. This also makes sure you are installing the 64-bit part of your app to the device, not the 32-bit one. By specifying the ABI to install, you will be able to install only the 64-bit part of your app to the device. If your APK doesn't support 64-bit API, an error message will be shown. So what should you do after the install? Of course, testing. Testing is so important, and some SDKs or libraries may have wrong assumptions and may cause crashes at one time. For example, the SDK may be still looking for the path -lib, not -lib64. The path -lib still exists in a mixed mode device, but it may or may not exist in a 64-bit only devices. So your app may run on most devices, but fail on some 64-bit only devices. Another example is about the new instruction set in the new architecture. These instructions, such as PAT and BTI in ARM v9, enhance security, but some SDK crash because of this. We'll go through some specific example next. We have identified a few SDKs that are not compatible with 64-bit only devices. Most of these SDKs have released a new version which fixes the problem. If you are using any of these SDKs, update it to the latest version. If you find an SDK having issue with 64-bit only devices, report to us. Some old versions of SLoader have a bug in identifying the library path when running in a 64-bit only environment. This also affects SDK using SLoader, such as React Native, Facebook Yoga, and Fresco. The recent release of SLoader also fixed some other compatibility issue. So if you are using SLoader, make sure you are using the latest version. Similarly, some old versions of OpenSSL have a bug in handwritten assembler that causes PAC failure. Again, check which version you are using and make sure you are using the new version with the fix. If your app is using some app shielding solution, please make sure the solution is working when PAT and BTI are enabled. Contact your vendor if you see issue. If you are publishing your app on Play, here is some good news for you. Google Play can tell you is your app affected by old version of some popular library such as SLoader. And make sure you have opt-in to the pre-launch report. Why? Because pre-launch report now support testing with a 64-bit only hardware, which means you could identify many 64-bit related issues from the pre-launch report. You could see the errors if your submitted package is having issue. Please make sure you visit Google Play Console so you don't miss the message. Thank you, and remember to check out developer.android.com for more information. We are adding more content about 64-bit there. See you again soon.